Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caden Kubler and welcome to Caden's Corner. The Detroit Lions have been on a roll as they pulled off a massive win against the Minnesota Vikings on the road on Sunday. This Lions team is legit, and it's time we start talking about them as the favorites to come out of the NFC. Now, as I mentioned, the Lions pulled off a massive win against the Vikings this past Sunday. Jared Goff looked phenomenal. This defense looked great, made key stops to get them back in this game. And this Lions team is on a roll right now. They're 5-1. They're at the top of the NFC, and they just beat the last remaining undefeated team in this conference. And I think looking at this Lions team, they're very different from last year, even though this was the team that was in the NFC Championship, up 17 points going into the second half, only 30 minutes away from making the Super Bowl, and yet they look so much better this year. And I think the biggest difference on this team is the guy that's under center, and that's Jared Goff. He has looked phenomenal this year, and he's been instrumental in the Lions' success. He didn't get out of the gates super fast the first few weeks, struggled against the Buccaneers, but has really bounced back these last 4 weeks, and he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I'll just read you some of his stats real quick over the last 3 weeks where he's been basically perfect. Against the Seahawks, he was perfect. He had 100% completion percentage, nearly threw for 300 yards, had 2 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating, along with a receiving touchdown. Skip forward to the next week on the road against the Cowboys, had 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, almost another perfect passer rating, but this was a statement win from the Lions as they put up nearly 50 points against the Cowboys. And then this past week, the Lions faced some adversity. They were down early 10-0 to the Vikings against this really stout defense that Brian Flores has been leading. But Goff and the boys stayed true to what they do. He completed 88% of his passes, had 280 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 140 passer rating, and Jared Goff has been basically perfect over the last 3 weeks, and it shows in this Lions success. Now, we know how well built this Lions offense is. They're so great at running the football with this power back that is David Montgomery, and you sprinkle in Jahmyr Gibbs, who can make electric plays like we saw against the Vikings when he broke that 50-yard touchdown run. And Detroit is so good at parlaying that with their play action game and this stout offensive line that can get it done in the run game and can get it done in the passing game. And you have Jared Goff that is so surgical when he gets to that play action. He can find his guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tim Patrick, Jameson Williams, this true speedster and burner on the outside that's finally healthy. And I think with how good that Jared Goff has been playing, it's safe to say that he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. And it's proven with how good this offense truly is, and it seems like they're finally reaching their full potential. Through these first 6 weeks of the Lions, they're 2nd in yards per game, 3rd in passing yards per game, 4th in rushing yards per game, and they have the 2nd most points per game at 30. This offense is one of the best in the NFL, arguably the best, and it starts with Jared Goff. And now it would be a shame to not compliment this defense too, because this is another big difference from this team last year. We knew that Detroit had a great front led by Aiden Hutchinson, who suffered a tragic injury 2 weeks ago, but we knew that they had a great front that could get after the quarterback last year. But the secondary was a big question mark, but it has really come alive this season. Brian Branch, who's a 2nd-year guy out of Alabama, has been a tremendous safety for the secondary. Another Bama guy in this secondary, Terrion Arnold, this 1st-round corner that they selected out of Alabama, has also been tremendous. Now, of course, this loss to Hutchinson was absolutely huge, and I'm hoping for a speedy recovery for him. But this Lions offense is truly so good that they can keep them in every single game. And like I said at the beginning of this video, this Lions team really does feel different this year. Jared Goff is playing the best football of his entire career. This defense, and in specific the secondary, is finally playing at a high level with these Alabama guys. And I think in the past, people weren't truly looking at this team as legitimate contenders because they had Jared Goff, but they had great pieces around. They had Dan Campbell, this fiery guy who we knew was going to win games in the regular season, but how would it translate in the postseason? And we saw them go out in the NFC Championship last year and just fall short by 30 minutes. But I think with what we're seeing from the Lions right now, this is the best they've ever looked, and I truly think they're the front runner to come out of the NFC. And I think another really interesting thing that the Lions should look into with the loss of Aiden Hutchinson is a potential trade for Max Crosby. Now, Hutchinson has blossomed into one of the best edge rushers in the entire league, and it seems like Las Vegas has virtually become a fire sale with the trade of Davante Adams and with Max Crosby's frustration with just the overall losing, but why not go trade 2 to 3 first-round picks to go get Max Crosby to fill in for Hutchinson this year? Because it seems like the Super Bowl window is now officially open with how great everybody else is playing. Why not go trade for Max Crosby to replace Hutchinson, see what you can do this year, and try and go win the Super Bowl? If you don't win it this year, or if you do win it this year, you have Hutchinson and Max Crosby coming at both different sides. I'm a firm believer in going all in during Super Bowl windows. We saw the Rams do this when they got into their Super Bowl window. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. They traded for Matthew Stafford. They went all in when their window had opened. But I don't necessarily think that the Super Bowl window is going to close in the next 4 to 5 years. But why not go all in, go get Max Crosby, and see what you can do right now? But in all reality, they probably won't go make this move, but I still think that they're in a fine spot. You look at the entire outlook of the NFC. The 49ers have fallen off a cliff. They're so banged up with Ayuk, McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel, and that was really the team that everybody regarded in the NFC as the top dogs. Now we saw them just knock off the last remaining undefeated team in the NFC, and the Minnesota Vikings. They'll still see them again as they're in the same division. You look at Washington and what Jaden Daniels has done up there. They've been phenomenal this year, but I'm not going to go against history and take a rookie quarterback in the postseason. And I think the only other true quote-unquote wild card team in the NFC is the Green Bay Packers right now. They have looked phenomenal over the past few weeks with the return of Jordan Love. I'm curious to see what these two will do when they see each other twice this year. Now, coming into this year, I did pick the 49ers to win the NFC, but with what I've seen with the injuries and the inconsistencies from Brock Purdy, I have to take the Detroit Lions right now. I think the Lions are absolutely the truth. They've been so deadly on both sides of the ball, and the biggest difference is what Jared Goff is putting forward on the gridiron every single week. He has been masterful with this team, and I truly think that the Lions can go win it all this year. Detroit is no joke, and people need to go all in on this team to win the NFC. I'm Caden Kubler, and that's my take.